Hey guys, in this video we'll learn how we can handle errors that can occur in our code. Most of the programming languages use the try-catch mechanism to handle errors, and it is what Python also uses for handling errors. So in this video I'll show you how we can handle errors in our code. So let us understand the concept of try-catch, which in Python is known as try except. So here's the syntax for this. So first we have the try block in which we define some code. Then we have the except block where we handle the errors that may occur in the try block in any of the statements that you write in the try block. So let us understand each of these keywords first before we move on to writing some code. So first is the try block. So the try block wraps all the code that you want to test that can give rise to an error that you would most likely want to handle. Now as a side note, you should only handle errors that you cannot predict or avoid, but that can occur. For example, an input-output error, which is the IO error, which can occur at time of file access if a particular file that we are trying to access doesn't exist, or an OS error, an error pertaining to the operating system. It is also possible that you may get an error if some of your operations are running out of memory, so you may also want to handle that case as well. So now comes the except block that is used for handling the errors. Now if an error occurs in some line in the try block during its execution, the rest of the code in the try block is skipped and the control is shifted right to the except block to handle the error. Now we can handle the errors in a generic way using an except block for all the possible errors that may occur in your code, or you can also handle specific errors as well. So let us see some examples to understand this error handling mechanism in great depth. So I'm back in my editor. Let us define a number. So I can say try except error handling mechanism. So I will set a number A and set that to 27. Then I will use the try keyword and I will try some logic in the code block pertaining to the try keyword. So I'll say try, and right in the try block I will define a variable B and set that to A divided by 0. So I'm trying to divide A, which is 27, by 0, and this should throw an error because division by 0 is not defined in mathematics. And then let us print B to the terminal. And to handle the error that can occur if any in the above code, I can make use of the except block. So we are performing division by 0 and this will resolve to an undefined number. So the line at which this operation is being performed, which is 518, will raise an exception, or you can say an error, and our except block that will handle the error. So it's a 0 division error and I can give an alias to it. So set DE and I can print error set DE. So this is the error that gets raised when you try to divide a number by 0, and this is how you can catch specific exceptions. So here we are catching not a generic exception but a specific exception, or error you can say, which is the 0 division error. And let us run the file and you can see we are getting division by 0 logged to our terminal. Though you can handle errors in a more generic way by just writing except and define the code for that. So let me comment this out, and here let us say except and print error occurred and run the file. So now you can see we are getting error occurred. So this is how you can handle an error in a generic way, but I would recommend you to handle the error in this way. If you know that a division by 0 error can occur in your code, then you should handle the error in a specific way and not in the generic way. Now we can also add one more block to this, which is the finally block, and whatever code you define within it will execute no matter what. Irrespective of whether the code in try block throws an error or not, the finally block will always get executed. So right after the except block, I will say finally and I will say print everything done. And let us run the file. So even if our except block runs, the finally block will always run irrespective of the fact whether the error occurs in the try block or not. The finally block will always get executed, and that is why you are getting everything done logged to the terminal. Now let us see how we can handle multiple errors. So what I will do is I will define a function to concatenate two strings, and this will receive two strings as the arguments. So handling multiple errors, so def concatenate, and this will receive two strings, so string 1 and string 2. And then I will define some code that I want to try or that I want to test, and I will print the concatenation of string 1 with string 2, and then I will use the except block, and here we can get the type error. Suppose that if string 1 is passed as a number and string 2 is passed as a string, then concatenation of a number with a string is not defined, and this will raise a type error, for which I can define an alias as te, and I can print error occurred and te. So now let us try to run the function concatenate, and here I'll pass the nerdy def as the string, and the second one I'll not be passing a string. Let us pass a number here and run the file, and you can see we are getting this error. Error occurred can only concatenate string not integer to string. Okay, so you can see here we are getting type error because one of the arguments that we pass to the function is a number and other one is a string, and that is why concatenation failed at line number 529 and the type error was raised. So we handled the error on line 531. So finally let us define a function to divide two numbers, and this will be a more compact function to perform division of two numbers than the code that we wrote for division in the calculator example in the introductory video on functions, because this will handle all possible errors that might occur during the division of two numbers. So I'll define a function divide, and this will take on two numbers a and b, and let us try to test some code. So I'll define a variable result and set that to a divided by b and print the result to the terminal, and here we can handle multiple errors. So let us try handling our errors in a specific way. So what errors can we get here? First is we can get a zero division error. It is possible that b is 0, so if you try to divide a by 0, you will get a zero division error that will get raised at line number 537, and this except block will run in that case. Zero division error as ZDE, and I will print error and ZDE. Now the case here is that if you try to divide a number by 0, that means if a is some number and b is 0, then the except block pertaining to zero division error will run. So to test the code that we have written so far, I will invoke the function divide, pass on 3 and 0, and let us run the file, and you can see we are getting error division by 0 because we are trying to divide 3 with 0, and that will fail definitely, and that is why it raised an error. We handled the error right on line number 540, and that is why we are getting error division by 0. Now one other error that can occur here is that if the two numbers are of different types, it may be possible that the caller of the divide function might have provided strings instead of numbers as the arguments, so in that case type error will occur. So to handle the type error, I will define another except block, and I will say type error as te and print error and type error. Or to be a bit specific, I can say both a and b must be of same types and must be numbers. As if the code works fine, the division went well, we printed the result, then no except block will get executed, and I can also make use of the else keyword, and I can print division went well. So let us comment this line, and let us try to divide 1 with, say, the nerdy div, which of course will fail because you are passing two arguments that are of different types. So a type error should occur and this statement should get executed. So let us run the file. So you can see we are getting both A and B must be of same types and must be numbers, unsupported operand types for slash. Okay, so it says A and B are of different types, so one is a string and one is a number, so division is not defined or is not supported. So now I can also improve the above function a bit by handling all possible errors in one except block. So what I will do is I will basically remove this except block and define it right here. So I will define one more specific error here, which is the type error, and let us wrap this in parentheses and name this as, say, some specific error, and here I will print that error to the terminal. So we can wrap the corresponding error classes, which is the zero division error and the type error, in a parenthesis and write them inside the parenthesis separated by a comma. So let us run the file and you can see we are getting the same error, unsupported operand types. Now lastly, what if I want to raise an exception when a certain condition occurs? So Python gives us the flexibility to throw an error based on some condition. So to throw an exception, we can make use of the raise keyword. So let us define an example for this. So right down here, I will define an example for raise keyword. So let us define a variable name and I will set that to nerdy. And what I want to do is I want to check if the name is a string or not. If it is of some other type, raise a type error in that case. So let us define the code for that. So if the type of name is not string, then I will print a message, name must be of string type, and let us raise the type error and pass the same message that I'm using in the print statement above. So name must be of string type, and let us run the file. So this works fine because the name is of string type. But what if I change this to 1 and then run the file? You can see now we are getting a type error that name must be of string type. So this was all about the video on error handling using try, except and finally blocks, and how you can raise an exception as and when required. So if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for all the upcoming uploads, and I will see you guys in the very next video.